In under 5 minutes, Keir Starmer proves to us all, right here in this clip, that he may be involved in the alleged Southport cover-up. So let me explain further using amateur linguistic analysis. Hey up everyone and welcome to Political Nerds. I'm Steph the Alter Nerd, your nerdy political guide from Washington DC to Westminster and beyond. In today's video, I'm going to use amateur armchair linguistic analysis to show that in under 5 minutes with this clip right here, Keir Starmer may be involved in the alleged Southport cover-up. Now, this is all my opinion, conspiracy theory, whatever. Do your own research, come to your own conclusions. And as a disclaimer, I'm not inciting hatred to anyone or a particular group, religion, etc. So let's jump into it with this. This is a clip from today. It's labelled as Keir Starmer giving his statement on the Southport trial and the monster's guilty plea. Again, this is all my opinion, conspiracy theory, whatever. Let's get into it.
The senseless, barbaric murder of 3 young girls in Southport is a devastating moment in our history. No words come anywhere close to expressing the brutality and horror in this case. Every parent in Britain will have had the same thought. It could have been anywhere. It could have been our children. But it was Southport. It was Bibi, 6 years old, Elsie, 7, Alice, 9.
Here, he starts off with emotional manipulation. He's trying to get you on his side emotionally by naming the little girls that were killed in the Southport massacre. Or, as I like to call it, the Southport terrorist attack. It's a disgusting use of emotional manipulation here as far as I'm concerned.
Back in August, I said there would be a time for questions, but that first, justice had to be done.
So, did you notice where he tails off when he says done? As in, the sound of his voice decreases and it gets softer. Usually when this happens, when someone starts saying something and then they tail off at the end, just like you've heard Keir Starmer do, it means that 9 times out of 10, they have no faith in what they just said. And so with Keir Starmer doing it right here, indicates to me he has no faith in what he just said right there.
And that above all, we must not interfere with the work of the police, the prosecutors, and the delivery of that justice.
Again, hear him where he tails off right at the end when he said justice, indicating a second time he has no faith in what he's just said there. And he tails off when he says justice. So was there any interference? Was there any interference, let's say, on the government side to ensure this alleged cover-up so that full justice couldn't be done as a result? Hey, I'm just asking for a friend there.
Well, yesterday, thankfully, a measure of justice was done.
Notice what he says there. A measure of justice. Him saying that backs up my theory that he knows justice hasn't been done here. He could have said, well, yesterday, thankfully, justice has been served. But he didn't. He said a measure of justice, which in other words for me is saying only a portion of justice has been served, but not the full lot. Why? Well, the full truth of the Southport terrorist attack hasn't come out. And so, in that vein, full justice hasn't been served whatsoever. I wonder why.
But it won't bring those girls back to their families. And it won't remove the trauma from the lives of those who were injured. Their lives will never be the same. So before I turn to the questions that must now be answered, for the families and the nation, I first want to recognise their unimaginable grief, because I know the whole country grieves for them.
Here he uses, by my understanding, what's known as a qualifying statement. So a qualifying statement is a word or a phrase that is either going to diminish or enhance the meaning of a statement that you're trying to make in the first place overall. Now, in what Keir Starmer said here, the qualifying statement for me is, I first want to recognise. Well, in this case, I believe this qualifying statement actually diminishes what Starmer's trying to say overall here. Because if you first want to recognise anything, then why not say it right at the beginning of your statement rather than nearly 2 minutes in? So for me, this statement reduces Starmer's credibility even further.
The tragedy of the Southport killings must be a line in the sand for Britain. We must make sure the names of those 3 young girls are not associated with the vile perpetrator, but instead with a fundamental change in how Britain protects its citizens and its children.
See, first, he describes the event as the Southport killing. Singular. Now, bear in mind, this could be a speech impediment. I don't know. But it really shocked me as odd that he essentially said Southport killing, which is singular. Because in actual fact, it should actually be plural. Southport killings. Now, if there's no speech impediment, all right, then in this case, he can't help himself, but still try and downplay this horrific crime even further. That's insane.
In pursuit of that, we must, of course, ask and answer difficult questions.
See, again, he tails off here, indicating a lack of confidence in what he's saying. He's not confident to be answering the difficult questions about the Southport killings, when he should be as our freaking Prime Minister. Why is he lacking confidence in answering the difficult questions? Is there a cover-up that he's trying to hide? That these difficult questions would actually bring to light?
Questions that should be far-reaching, unburdened by cultural or institutional sensitivities, and driven only by the pursuit of justice. That is what we owe the families.
Yeah. Let's be real here. The families deserve justice. Fair play. However, Keir Starmer misses something out here. Families also deserve the truth. And here you can see, amongst other things, what he's not saying. He's all about the families of the victims getting justice, but he's not saying that the families and the British people as a whole also deserve to know the truth. Why is he not saying that? Is it because the truth could actually implicate him in this alleged rumoured cover-up?
The responsibility for this barbaric act lies, as it always does, with the vile individual who carried it out.
Here, he's trying to water down, and again, all in my opinion, conspiracy theory, whatever, trying to desensitise what happened at the Southport terrorist attack. Because this is manipulative wordplay. Because instead of calling the perpetrator a terrorist, he calls him a vile individual. Instead of calling the Southport killings an act of terrorism, he calls it a barbaric act. For me, this is absolutely vile of Starmer to downplay and, as far as I'm concerned, desensitise the Southport killings and terrorist attack like this. Overall, to me, he's trying to desensitise the language that is being used around this terrorist attack.
But that is no comfort. And more importantly, it is no excuse. And so, as part of the inquiry launched by the Home Secretary yesterday, I will not let any institution of the state deflect from their failure. Failure which, in this case, frankly, leaps off the page. For example, the perpetrator was referred to the PREVENT programme on 3 separate occasions. In 2019, once, and in 2021, twice. Yet on each of these occasions, a judgment was made that he did not meet the threshold for intervention, a judgment that was clearly wrong and which failed those families. And I acknowledge that here today.
He said at the end, and I acknowledge that here today. Again, he mentions the vile monster as the perpetrator, but not what he actually is, a terrorist. In the meantime, he's now throwing other government institutions under the bus. Everyone is angry at Keir Starmer, and for good reason. There's a distinct smell of a cover-up on his part. Opinion, conspiracy theory, whatever. He's trying to move that smell away, though, from him and tell us that he doesn't stink, but instead, look at all these institutions that stink instead, such as the PREVENT programme. So be angry at them instead and not at him. He says, by saying wrong very distinctly and strongly. He don't tail off when he says the word wrong. Again, he's trying to emphasise who's wrong here. He's trying to emphasise that it's not him that's wrong, it's the PREVENT programme and all these other institutions. Guys, don't fall for that. They're all wrong. And he's there saying, and I acknowledge that here today. Of course he does, guys. For me, he's trying to pass on the blame to someone else in all of this. He's trying to save his own skin. He's trying to make sure that the truth really doesn't come out. Because not once has he mentioned the word truth. Why? Again, is this proof through what he's saying that he is actually involved in the alleged cover-up of the Southport terrorist attack?
Throughout this case, to this point, we have only been focused on justice. If this trial had collapsed because I or anyone else had revealed crucial details while the police were investigating, while the case was being built, while we were awaiting a verdict, then the vile individual who committed these crimes would have walked away a free man.
He's trying to put the blame on anyone here at this point, saying if anyone spoke up about this case, then it could have ruined any possibility of justice. Because he would have walked away a free man. And it would have been our fault for talking about it in the first place. He's trying to essentially justify why he curtailed our free speech about it. And guess what? It's not working. It's not working whatsoever. Like Charlie Bentley Astor says underneath here, right? You couldn't tell the nation the specifics. You did not have to take to a national stage and denounce great swathes of the nation far right for suspecting terrorist inspirations, for having intense concerns about the role of immigration, the weakness of the state, the direction of the nation. This was an intentional and calculated deflection. This is a cover-up. Get out. And damn right, it's a cover-up. Damn right, in my opinion, conspiracy, this is a cover-up. Now, he goes on to say, quote, a prospect of justice destroyed for the victims and their families. But again, it's not just about justice, but it's about getting to the truth of it all, which won't happen now there's not going to be a trial. He ends in this segment saying, I would never do that, and nobody would ever forgive me if I had. This is why the law of this country forbade me or anyone else from disclosing details sooner. You see, he's trying to impose moral authority on us, all of us, saying his ethics are better than ours. Yeah, I'm going to go ad hominem on his backside right now. What a freaking div! What a freaking div! Overall, as I said before, in the past, in previous videos, it's important, yes, what these people say, but it's also just as important as to what they do not say. So as I said earlier on in this particular video, Keir Starmer avoided talking about how the families of the victims and the people of Britain deserve to know the truth about the Southport killings. Another thing he didn't mention is the evil monster's name. He doesn't mention that he's a terrorist that committed a terrorist act, describing him instead as a vile individual who committed a barbaric act. Another way to water down and, for me, desensitise what actually happened, and trying to manipulate us in desensitising our own language and our own words as to how we describe this Southport terrorist attack. And this is the thing, right? Another thing you don't mention is that this was a terrorist attack, as this monster did plead guilty to 2 terror-related charges, one of which was admitting to producing the biological terror compound of ricin, and the other was being in possession of a freaking Al-Qaeda training manual. How is the Southport massacre not being said, not being communicated by Keir Starmer as a terrorist attack? And so with what I said earlier on, where Keir Starmer is avoiding talking about how the families of the victims and the people of Britain deserve to know the truth about the Southport terrorist attack, well, this is the thing, by not actually stating the facts of the case and omitting all these things I've just told you, this emphasises my belief further that he does not want the actual truth getting out, because he's avoiding mentioning the word truth and the facts of the case in the first place here. Is it because the truth could actually implicate him in this rumoured alleged cover-up? Now, stay tuned for part 2, because Keir Starmer does answer whether he believes this was a terrorist attack. And guess what, guys? His answer's going to shock you. So if you don't want to miss that future video, then please make sure you subscribe to join our Alter Nerd tribe here on Political Nerds. Like, share, comment down below. What did you notice from that clip that I just played for you there? Let me know in the comments down below. Thank you so much for tuning into this video. I appreciate all your faces. And until the next time, you guys, laters.